Hello everyone, live or at least in one take, it's the We Beat Ohio State Can You version of the Videocast. I'm Brad Ward.
And I'm Brian Westron.
And I am Ted Edgington with U.S. Bank Home Mortgage.
Thank you for joining us, Ted. Today, Ted was the proud winner of an RPAC Live auction prize, which we'll get into a little bit later. But more importantly, we're going to have ourselves a little TED Talk today on some of the TRID stuff and what Ted is seeing out in the field. Brian?
Very true. One of the issues that we talked about in our last podcast was for real estate practitioners and our realtor members managing the expectations of their clients. Now we're about a month and a half into this thing.
Right.
What have you seen out in the field?
You know, really just it comes back to what our industry should all be about, which is setting the right expectations right up front and educating clients on how this process really is supposed to work. National Association of Realtors suggested to write a 45-day contract. I'm finding that agents that are writing a little longer period of time, we all know that we want to close in 30 days or less, but writing the contract and closing on that date in the contract. You know, you had asked me this summer what I thought TRID would do for us.
Yeah.
TRID is actually going to raise the bar. So here you have a lender stating how this is going. It's making things better. We just have to get through the sucker punches and the tough things that happen to us daily to get through it. But it's going to make things better.
What's your perspective on staggered closings?
It's you know, so we've got somebody buying a house and selling and then they want to close immediately. It's really going to be up to the lender as to when they want to send that closing disclosure out to the client. Sending out a closing disclosure not knowing if they've actually sold their current residence can be a little bit risky. We don't want the client to think that seeing as though they've gotten the closing disclosure that condition based on them selling their house has been cleared. So again, it's planning a little more time in there. I haven't seen any back-to-back same-day closings happen yet, so I can't tell you how well it's going to work or not work.
Okay. And one of the other issues in terms of the lines of communication,
Yeah.
have you seen any real difficulty in making sure that all the parties are communicating?
Yeah, absolutely. For example, I had a realtor partner yesterday say that, you know, TRID didn't impact the file because it was a VA purchase. Understand that all mortgage purchases are impacted by TRID. So it's the communication.
Are there a lot of, what are some of those common misconceptions that are out there about TRID?
Yeah, you know, one thing that we've been seeing is you know, establishing the closing date and not always trying to pull the closing date forward. By saying that you're closing on the 23rd of the month, all parties now know where they're supposed to be.
Right.
So unlike in the past, we would see power of attorneys pop up the day of closing, the day after closing. You know, that's not happening. A misconception is that you can just change the price or throw in a seller concession addendum the day of closing. Don't do that anymore. So the understanding is that all parties getting everything buttoned up. About 20 days before our closing date, you really should be communicating with all partners, the lender, title company, if there's multiple title companies involved, and really working towards that date. So setting the date and sticking to it. It's really tough for our industry, but it's going to make things easier.
Do you see any wisdom in providing a flexible closing date in the purchase agreement?
You know, I really don't. I really see that if we did you know, those on or befores aren't focusing our clients on where they're supposed to be. Realtor partners, if you schedule a closing date on the 23rd, you know where you're supposed to be, and therefore you're not going to schedule showings on that date. So again, it's raising the bar, it's making our industry much more professional. We're scheduling our businesses just like other professionals.
So the sky is not falling.
The sky isn't falling. We're dodging some icebergs out there. We're all learning it. This was a very expensive rollout for all institutions to be a part of. The clients that have never been through a closing before are saying, wow, so this is how it's supposed to be. Our clients that have always closed under a HUD are saying they don't like it. So really, it's us getting our arms around it, and it's, all things considered, it's just going as smoothly as we possibly thought it possibly could.
So it's like you said, managing the expectations not only of the clients, but also managing the expectations of the industry as well. It's a learning process for everyone.
It's a learning process for everybody. Give everybody a little more time to get their arms around it. The title companies are just learning how to do it because they're still getting rid of their HUD closings right now. So they are actually wearing two shoes as well between their TRID closings and their HUD closings. So give everybody a little bit of time. Cramming that thing in there in a short period of time, it's not going to work.
And taking a renewed interest in the roles of the parties, because I think understanding
Right.
what everybody is supposed to do is paramount.
Right. Again, everybody can manage expectations if they have a date that they're working towards. And, you know, realtor partners, you know, you don't have to be involved in the closing process as you did before. The lender is responsible for providing that closing disclosure in a timely manner. Understand if they don't, the fines are extensive. So just understand that as a realtor, I would not be involved with that closing disclosure as you may have been as much with the HUD-1 closing statement.
You know, you've used the term realtor partner a couple times today, and you know, you were kind enough to invest in the Realtor Political Action Committee, which secured you the spot on this illustrious videocast, obviously. But you know, as an affiliate member and someone who's so tied into the industry and what our association does, why do you feel RPAC is important to you?
Well, it's the greatest voice for anybody that's in the real estate industry. You know, the Mortgage Bankers Association have their lobbyists in their PAC. The title companies, I would assume they do too. But all the parties do. But the greatest voice in Washington is our PAC. I was invited. I take direction very well. I was invited by some of my realtor partners 6-8 years ago to educate myself on our PAC, and I did. And consequently, I know that my investment in our PAC goes as far as any investment possibly good to protect my lifestyle, which my wife enjoys too, and to you know, impact our future.
Great. Well, we appreciate you being on the videocast today. You know, part of you know, the advocacy isn't just the lobbyists here in Lansing and Washington D.C. It's not just the investments in RPAC by people like yourself. You know, the third leg of that advocacy stool is really the grassroots, and we recently had a call for action that came out from our National Association of Realtor to stop the G fees, the guarantee fees that you see on a lot of those Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac loans, and the use of those G fees to kind of backfill the highway transportation funding bill.
Right.
So the call for action is still live. The National Association of Realtors sets out a goal of 20% participation. Thank you to everyone who has participated, the brokers who have participated with their agents. We have achieved our 20% goal. We'd really like to see that go a little higher. The call for action is going to run throughout the end of the week here, but it's very important. It's that third leg of the stool. It's the way we kind of turn up the volume on a lot of those advocacy efforts that are happening in Washington, D.C. So Realtor Action Center, get yourself to realtoractioncenter.com. Make sure you respond to the call for action. You got a few days left to do it. But it's extraordinarily important, just as important as investing in RPAC, understanding TRID, and just as important what Brian and I do here in Lansing. With that, I'd like to say a happy Thanksgiving. Do you have any words to send the folks off with, Ted?
Gobble, gobble.
Go State.
Thank you very much, everyone. That's the way it looks from the inside. I believe that's what Rob always used to say. And have a nice Thanksgiving.
Take care.